Hello students. Today we shall continue with the controlling chapter. In the previous session we discussed about the meaning of controlling process, then need and importance of controlling, limitations of controlling and its relationship with that of the planning and controlling relationship we discussed. Now today we will be discussing about two more topics. First topic is controlling process, steps in controlling process. What are the various steps to be performed in the controlling process? So there are 5 steps. The first step is setting performance standards. Setting performance standard. ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಣೆಯ ಶಿಷ್ಟಗಳನ್ನು ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸುವುದು. Setting performance standards. Second one is measuring. Second step is measuring actual performance. Measuring actual performance. Third, comparing actual performance. Third step is comparing actual performance with standards set. Right? So the first step is setting performance standards. So standards may be set for all the departments. Right? This can be classified into two types: quantitative standards and qualitative standards. Quantitative standards are those standards which can be measured, which can be expressed in quantity, in numbers. Qualitative, for example, take goodwill of the organization or say the behavior of the person. So these aspects are qualitative standards. Now, for each department, we set the standards. Production department, sales department. For production department, the standards may be how many units they allow to produce. We may fix the standard in terms of number of units that they should produce and the time to be taken to produce. So these are the standards we can say. For marketing department, sales. What should be the sales turnover? How many units they should sell? Within what time they should sell? We fix the targets for them also. We should be setting standards. Now, after setting the standards, we have to measure them. Measure the actual performance. So actual performance may be measured by using various techniques again here. Now, individually also we can measure their performance. Individual person may be measured by actual observation, personal observation, by making personal observation. If the organization is small, each and individual worker's actual performance can be examined personally. If the organization is very big and large, we can go for sample checking. Sample checking method can be adopted to measure actual performance. Now, individually also we can measure, organization on the whole also we can, performance of the organization also can be measured. Individually, how we can measure? By the superior in the form of reports. He'll write a report about each work that is being performed, or by the team or by the individual person, in the form of reports. He gives the reports. Now, all organization, performance of organization, how it can be measured? By preparing certain ratios like gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, return on investment. Okay, so by preparing certain ratios, by using certain techniques, we can also measure the performance of the organization. The third step is, after measuring what is actual performance, we need to compare the actual performance with that of the standards. Whether the actual performance, what they perform is as per the standard set or not. So we should make a comparison and identify the deviations. If there is any deviations, what are the deviations should be identified. After making comparison, the next step is we analyze. We have to analyze the deviations. Now, deviations is nothing but the differences. It is not the actual performance, it's not same as standard. Some differences are there, some deviations are there. So This has to be analyzed. We need to classify here the deviation, whether the deviation is acceptable deviations or whether it is very critical, which needs attention. The managerial attention is required, very much important. So the deviations which are acceptable to some extent, it can be accepted, these deviations. So such deviations which is not so relevant, irrelevant ones can be ignored by the managers. They will not break much of their head. The only thing is that concentrate more on those critical areas, key result areas, the critical points you say. So those points, critical points, they should control over. So such deviations will be avoided. For example, take if the cost is more in the production department. So usually in any organization, the more cost is incurred in the production department in the form of labor cost, material cost. So major cost is incurred there. So if any cost is increasing in that department, it's a very critical area. So manager has to concentrate there. Now, if suppose in administration, offices, administrations of small stationery items, expenses in stationery items has increased. So in postage or some stationery items, a small increase in the such cost, he need not break much of his head. Okay. So you should concentrate more where it is very critical, very crucial for the success of an organization. So we need to analyze the deviations. So in this case, he has to identify, manager can make use of two things, that is critical point control and management by exception. Management by exception. So as I told you, critical point control is which is very critical for the success of an organization. Such areas should be identified and take corrective measures. Is it clear? So what is the reason for such deviations? He has to find out, identify such deviations, the reasons for such deviations, and take corrective measures. The management by exception is which is very relevant, only such aspects will be considered by the managers. The rest of it, which is not so important, which is irrelevant, or the small deviations which can be acceptable, can be left over for the subordinates, and the important aspects decision has to be taken by the analyst and take the decision by the management. So management by exception we call it. Okay. By using this concept, how it is beneficial is manager can spend more time on only such area where control is essential, which is very important. So there's a saying that controlling everything means there is nothing that is being controlled. So what is very important that has to be controlled? The small things can be left over to the subordinates where they themselves can take decision and control over those aspects. Okay? So he can utilize all his talents in spending most of his time in taking appropriate decision and analyzing the situation, which is very crucial, which is very critical to the organization success. After analyzing the deviations, the next step is we'll have to take corrective action. Take corrective action. So what could be the reasons? What are the deviations that we come across department wise? Let me give you an example. In production department, the deviation may be, say the standard set is, suppose say for example, in 1 week 1000 units are to be produced in the production department. So you compare the actual. Suppose actual units produced is 900. So what is the deviation? 100 units is the deviation. You are comparing actual performance with standards and finding out the deviation. 100 units is the deviation. You have identified that. Now here you will have to analyze those deviations. Why the deviation has occurred? What is the cost for deviations? 100 units. 1000 units or 1000 units ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಶಿಷ್ಟಗಳನ್ನು ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ನೈಜ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಣೆಯನ್ನು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿಷ್ಟಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ. ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಕಂಡಾಗ ಅದನ್ನ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಕಾರಣ ಏನು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So the standard set is 1000 units for production department. In a week they should produce so many units. 900 is the actual performance. 900 produce ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ 100 deviations ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮಗೆ. ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ 100 units ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ. So 100 units ಕಡಿಮೆ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಕಾರಣ ಏನು ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಅವ್ರು 100 units ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಏನಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಇದು ಕಾರಣಗಳನ್ನ ಮೆಷಿನ್ ಫೇಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ರಿಪೇರ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಅಥವಾ ಪವರ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆ ಟೈಮ್ ಮುಗಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗದೆ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕಾರಣಗಳು, ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ರೀಸನ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸಚ್ deviations. So find out the cause for the deviations. A causes ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ corrective action should be taken. Is it clear? So ಅದು ಮುಂದೆ ಆ ರೀತಿ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋ ತರ ಅದನ್ನ ರೆಕ್ಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ deviations ನ. So suppose say workers they could not complete ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸಿದಾಗ sufficient training ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಎಷ್ಟು ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ ತರ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ ತರದ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಈ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಮೆಷಿನ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಮೆಷಿನ್ ರಿಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ ಅಥವಾ ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತಾ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ such deviation will they should ensure that managers should ensure that it will not repeat, such deviation mistakes will not repeat again, and plan for the future, better planning for the future. So to sum up, controlling process consists of 5 steps. The first step is setting performance standards. After setting standards, we compare it with actual performance. Then actual performance is measured. I'm sorry, it's not compared. Measuring actual performance. After measuring actual performance, we make comparison with actual performance with that of the standards set. Then after comparing, we can identify what are the deviations. Then here we find out the reasons for the deviations in the 4th step. After finding out the various reasons for the deviations, we'll try to take the corrective measures so that it can be avoided. This is how control is being performed. And one more thing, keep in mind, when standards are set, it should be flexible. ತುಂಬಾ ರಿಜಿಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಲಾ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. some changes will be taking in the environment, external factors influence ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So ಅದು manager within organization cannot have the control over such factors. So ಅಂತ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ನಾವು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಲೈಟ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Okay, when standards will become impracticable, practical ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗದೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ತಕ್ಕಂತೆ ಇದೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಮೈಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು. The next coming to the next topic is techniques of managerial control. So what techniques are adopted to control in the organization? Techniques. This can be classified into 2 types. How to exercise control by using certain techniques. The first method is, first type is traditional techniques. Traditional techniques. Sampradayika Tantragana. Traditional techniques. We have 4 types here. First one, personal observation. Vayaktika Avalokana. Personal observation. Statistical reports. Statistical reports. ಅಂಕಿ ಅಂಶಗಳ ಪಟ್ಟಿ. Statistical reports. Break-even analysis. Break-even analysis. 4th one is budgetary control. Budgetary control. Let us see how these techniques are used. As the name says, it's a traditional technique. Traditional ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಂಪ್ರದಾಯಿಕ ತಂತ್ರಗಳು. ಇದು ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಈಗ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಇದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಈ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್, ಈ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ಸ್. ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದಾಗ we have 6 types here. ಆಧುನಿಕ ತಂತ್ರಗಳು, ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್, like return on investment, ratio analysis, responsibility accounting, management audit, PERT and CPM, ಮತ್ತೆ management information system ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ 6 types of techniques that we discuss little later. Now coming to the traditional techniques. So personal observation, ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ಅವಲೋಕನ. ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವರೇ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರ ಆಕ್ಚುಲ್ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗಿದೆ, ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಬರೀತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಡಿಸ್ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ ವರ್ಕ್ ಯಾರೋ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದಾಗ ನನಗಿಂತ ಸುಪೀರಿಯರ್ ನನ್ನ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅವನಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರೈಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ. ಸೊ ಅವನು ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೊಂದು ಡಿಸ್ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಈ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಬರಲ್ಲ. It's the greatest disadvantage. Only when in certain situations we can make use of personal observations. The next type of technique is statistical reports. ಅಂಕಿ ಅಂಶಗಳ ಪಟ್ಟಿಗಳು. Statistical reports ಅಲ್ಲಿ various statistical tools and techniques ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ information provide ಮಾಡಬೇಕು managers ಗೆ. So that based on the information collected, they can take corrective measures. They can make up what is happening, what is the position, what is the actual performance, and what measures we need to take if there is any deviations. If the results is not to the expectation, we can take corrective measures. So statistical reports helps managers to exercise their control function. So example, take averages, percentages, or even correlation. If you take the example of correlation technique of statistics, correlation is one of the techniques, statistical technique used by the managers. It shows the relationship between the two variables, two or more variables. For example, take the two variables are demand and price. Ivaga manager has to decide that price increase ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ price, for example 10% price increase ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ demand increase ಆಗುತ್ತೆ decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Obviously price increase ಆದಾಗ demand decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ as per law of demand ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ ಇದು decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ 10% increase 10% decrease ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, not bad, you can still take decision to increase the price. Suppose a small change in price leads to a big change in demand, 90% demand ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, so a small change in price ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, isn't it? So ಈ ರೀತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ it is highly correlated ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. There is high correlation. Small change in price has led to big change in demand ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it is highly correlated. A small change in price or say big change, vice versa, a big change in price has led to small change in demand. Demand ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, 40% ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಬರೀ 10% ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಡಿಮಾಂಡ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಲೋ, ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಲೋ ಕಾರ್ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಈ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೆಟರಾ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ ಲಾಸ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ. ಸೊ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮಾಂಡ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಲೆಸ್ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು. This is just one example I gave you. So like this we can use, there are various tools, statistical tools and techniques that helps managers to analyze the situation and take appropriate decisions. The next concept is break-even analysis. Now how does break-even analysis helps managers to take decision? What type of decision they can take? Usually in the production department, the manager has to decide minimum how many units I should produce so that I can avoid loss. So I'll show you with the diagram here. ಸಮಷ್ಟಿಯ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಇದನ್ನ, ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇವನ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್. ಫಿಕ್ಸೆಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್, ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್, ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 units produced, quantity produced ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. X axis ಮೇಲೆ, Y axis sales or revenue ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ, sales and cost, revenue and cost. So let us take this to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That is assume it is in thousands, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 and so on. Okay, so fixed cost in parallel of vertical x axis. What is this fixed cost? It remains fixed, change ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಈ cost. ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ನೋಡಿ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ 0 ಇದ್ರೂ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ 30,000 ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್. ನಾವೇನು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. 100 ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು 30, 400 ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು 30ನೇ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಾನು ಏನು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಲಾಸ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಕನಿಷ್ಠ ಎಷ್ಟು ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಲಾಭ ಬರಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಇದು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವೇರೀಸ್. ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ವೇರಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಎರಡು ಸೇರಿಸಿದಾಗ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್. ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 0 ಇಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಮೀಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇವನ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್, ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇವನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, BEP ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಈ BEP ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆದ ನಂತರ we start getting profit. Organization start getting profit. Before this break even point, what organization experiences, it is loss. So this portion ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕನಿಷ್ಠ ಅವರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರಬೇಕು, let us assume it is 350 ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ನೋ ಲಾಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಂತಾನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಇದನ್ನ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇವನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ನೋ ಲಾಸ್. Your total cost is equal to sales. There is no profit and no loss also. Beyond this, if you start producing, you look into profit. You will start getting profit. Is it clear? So, hence, this break-even analysis establishes the relationship between cost, volume, and profit aspect, and it helps the managers to decide how many units to be produced, minimum how many units I should produce, so that I can control my loss, so that I can avoid the loss and start getting the profit. Is it clear? So that is how this break-even analysis helps the manager. Now coming to the next aspect, budgetary control. What is a budget? It's an estimation about the future happening, and it is expressed in terms of quantitative, numerical terms. It is expressed in numerical terms. It's an estimation. In an organization, what estimations they make? In each department, we can prepare the budgets for each department. Production department, sales department, finance department, HR department, and so on. So in production department, we prepare production budget, sales department, sales budget, cash budget, finance department, and so on. So these budgets are prepared. It's in advance they make an estimation. For example, in production department, it specifies during the month of March, so many units has to be produced. April month, so many units has to be produced. Well, in advance, they make an estimation and mention it in the budget. So actual work has to be performed as per the budgeted figure. It should tally with this. So they know, workers actually know what is my target, how much I should accomplish. Okay, so you try to work without wasting this time, and you will come to know on what basis you will also be appraised. So you will be very alert in attaining to the budgeted figure. So similarly, sales budget tells us how many units to be sold in each month. It will specify and it will compare with the actual sales. Then again, similarly, cash budget. How much of cash that I am expecting this month? What are my payments? What are my revenues? What cash balance I should have in this month? Next month, what is the cash balance that I am expecting? How much I am getting? So they can analyze this by looking at the budgetary control. By preparing budgets, it helps the managers to compare the actuals with the budgeted ones and see if there is any deviation, and helps him to take corrective measures. Okay. So these are the tools, traditional tools used by the managers in an organization. So different tools will be adopted depending upon the situations. So since because it's traditional techniques doesn't mean that they are not in use today. They are still in use. As I told you, depending on the situation, different techniques may be adopted. Now let us look into the modern techniques. Adhunika Tantragnanagalu. Return on investment. Return on investment. ಹೂಡಿಕೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತ returns, income, ಆದಾಯ. Then ratio analysis. ratio analysis. Responsibility accounting. Another technique is responsibility accounting. Fourth one is management audit. Management audit. Fifth, PER and CPM. It is called as performance evaluation review technique and critical path method. And lastly, we have one more technique called management information system. Management information system. So these modern techniques may be used depending upon the situation or for different aspects. Different techniques may be suitable and appropriate technique may be used by the managers. Now coming to the first one, return on investment. So what is this return on investment? Here you try to analyze what is my investment, how much I've invested, how much of returns I'm getting when I've invested on that. So by calculating this return on investment, what you can analyze is how efficiently my resources are being utilized so that I'm getting sufficient returns, expected returns that I'm getting. Suppose the expected return is 25%. He wants returns of 25%. When you calculate what is his return on investment, suppose it comes to 15%, this is actual one. So it is not, the returns is not as per his expectation, isn't it? So he will try to find out why the reason is, where the resources is not utilized properly, the optimal utilization is not happening. So whatever is invested is going waste. So where I should avoid such wastages, what corrective measures I should take in order to improve my returns. So we should concentrate on this. So return on investment identifies whether the investment is being utilized appropriately or not, or optimal utilization is happening or not, how much of returns that I am getting. In order to increase the returns, what managers can do, they can increase the sales. Okay. So instead of increasing the investment itself, to increase the returns, they can, by increasing sales, they can get more returns. Or instead of increasing the investment, they can reduce the investment and retain the same sales level. So either of it they can do in order to improve the returns. So return on investment helps managers to identify the critical area where the investment is going waste, whether I am getting sufficient returns or not. So you can make a decision, and in future whether to invest in such projects or such business, so that you can take a decision. If he is getting sufficient returns, good returns, he can continue with that investment. Otherwise, he can take a decision. It is waste investing in so and so business because my returns is very low. So such decision, to take such decision, return on investment helps. Coming to the next aspect, ratio analysis. What is ratio analysis? To analyze the financial statements prepared in our accounts, that is statement of profit and loss and statement of balance sheet. These two statements, by looking at these two statements, one cannot say how well the organization is performing until unless you analyze each and every item of those statements. You cannot come to a conclusion whether the organization is performing better or not. So in order to assess the performance of an organization, one has to analyze the financial statements. So how to analyze the financial statements? By preparing certain ratios. The ratios can be, for example, I will give 4 ratios here. There is a long list of ratios, out of which a few ratios I just mentioned here. Liquidity ratios. We can prepare liquidity ratios. And solvency ratio. Solvency ratio. We can prepare profitability ratios. Profitability ratios. Then turnover ratios. Turnover ratios. Liquidity ratio. Liquidity ratio, like it compares current assets and current liability. How much of current assets are having and how much of current liabilities. So if your liquid position has to be good, you should have more of current assets than current liabilities. So if your current liability is more than current assets, it shows your liquid position is low. It's bad. It's not so good. So here, excuse me, it helps the organization to know whether to go for, say, it helps the supplier. For example, take supplier, he's supplying materials on credit basis. He can take a decision whether to such organization I can sell my materials on credit basis or not. What is its liquid position? Will they be in a position to repay back to me? Do they have a liquid cash with them, liquid assets with them, sufficient liquid assets is there or not? Are they, is it possible for them, ability for them to repay back my money in future in a short period? So he can analyze this when to get this liquidity ratio. So internally also managers can assess themselves what is their liquidity position. Do they have sufficient cash in hand, working capital is sufficient to meet the claims? What are the claims? The claims by the workers to pay the wages, to pay the rent for the factory, to purchase the materials and pay the amount to the creditors. So do they have sufficient cash to run their day-to-day business? So this liquid position reveals that to the managers. If the liquid position happens to be low or bad, he can take corrective measures immediately. Instead of delaying, managers can take corrective action quickly. Similarly, solvency ratio. How does solvency ratio helps managers? It helps them to assess, they compare the assets and liabilities. So any organization which has more assets than liability, you say such organization is solvent. It has got the ability to repay its loans borrowed in future in a long run. So this talks about short-term period and this talks about long-term period, long-term debts. So do they have good position to repay their loans borrowed in the long run? Then profitability ratio. What does profitability ratios tell us? It tells us about the profitability position of the organization. So how much of sales is taking place, how much of profit they are earning, what is their gross profit position, how much of net profit that they have earned, operating profits. So such profits they can analyze and see whether the operations are performed in such a way that it is profitable or not. Then turnover ratios. Turnover ratios which examines the efficiency of the operations, how efficiently they are performing their operations. Now, example for turnover ratio is debtors turnover. Debtors turnover ratio. So, what does this ratio indicates to us? How many times debtors are being turned over? Means how many times we are recovering the money from them, from the debtors. How many times more and more debtors are paying the amount to us. So it indicates that how quickly, how efficiently we are able to collect the amount sold to the goods sold to the debtors on credit basis. We are able to collect it. So similarly, stock turnover. How many times my stock is being getting turnover indicates that how much of sales is taking place. My finished goods many times is being getting replenished and the new set of stock is coming in, again it is getting exhausted. So it is getting turnover. So this indicates the quick sales, quick production. Production is on continuous basis, sales is on continuous basis, stock is getting again and replenished. Okay. So this is what it is, stock turnover ratios. So looking at this, one can say how efficiently the organization is performing its operations. So by preparing various ratios, we can say how well the organization is performing, how well its liquidity position is, its solvent position is, then profitability position, and how efficiently it is performing its operations. So these things can be analyzed, and if any deviations or not as per the expectation, the managers can take their action immediately, take some corrective measures. Responsibility accounting. The next technique that we can see here is responsibility accounting. So as for this technique, the different departments or centers, different departments or units are fixed responsibility for certain things. For example, we can identify them as cost center, revenue center, profit center, investment center. So for department, creating centers like this, cost center, we can fix the responsibility for the cost incurred. Revenue center, for such department, we can fix responsibility for the revenue that they are generating. Profit center for the profits, and investment center for the amount invested. How profitably it is being invested, how efficiently it is being invested, etc. So cost center, probably production department, usually in the production department, they treat the production department as cost center, right? Because the major cost incurred is in production department. So in the form of materials, in the form of labor cost, the major cost is there. Hence, we consider production department as the cost center. So they are responsible for the cost. If the cost happens to be more, the major cost occurs there. So they are again responsible for it. Same way, revenue center, revenue generation department is nothing but marketing department. So marketing department is responsible for generating the revenues. So how effectively it is generating the revenue, how much it is increasing, is it high or low, and they can compare and fix responsibility and see how well they are performing. So suppose revenue is less, whom we can fix responsible, who is responsible for it? This center is responsible, marketing department is responsible, and so on. So profit center, similarly, profit center, for example, take how much of profit we are getting out of the operation it is performing. For example, repair and maintenance department, it is rendering service to other departments. To other department, it is rendering service and generating bills, generating profits out of it. So that is called as profit center. So they are spending, the organization is spending for repairs and maintenance department. By establishing that department, it has incurred expenditure. With what expectation they are incurring that expenditure? With some profit. Are we really getting the profit from that center? The investment center. Investment center is where they are responsible not only for profits, also for the investments made. So where it is being invested. So which asset I should invest in, which project I should invest, so that I will get maximum profit, maximum revenue. So they are responsible for making investment, taking decision whether to invest in this or not. So by fixing responsibility to each department, they will work as per the standard set and attain to all these aspects. Okay, this is a control can be exercised by using responsibility accounting technique. Coming to the management audit, the next aspect is management audit. In management audit, auditing means what? Checking books of accounts. Auditor function you must have heard. What is the job of the auditor? He checks the books, verifies, voting, and certifies that all the records made in the books are proper or not. It's whether the statement what they mentioned is true or not, isn't it? So auditing for the organization, for the company form of type of business, it is mandatory. They should go for auditing. Accounts is certified auditing. Now, what is this management auditing it talks about? Management audit. There is no hard and fast rule that everybody should follow. Every organization should follow this management audit. It is not compulsory. It is not mandatory. But still, in some organizations, they have realized the importance of this technique and they are adopting management audit technique also. So what does it audit here? What does it verify here? It verifies the manager's policies, programs, objectives, standards set, whether it is accurate or not, whether the policy set is matching with the government policies or the laws. Is there any deviations, any changes to be made? How effectively their plans have been implemented? Is there any change required for the plan? At the various levels of management, it is being verified. Their activities have been verified. That is what we mean by management audit. So by doing this management audit, they will realize where they stand and how effectively they are managing the things. Is there any improvement required? So such things they can identify. PERT and CPM is another technique used. This technique is usually used in those projects which require more activities to be performed and more time consuming. So such projects, for example, like aircraft manufacturing, construction industries, where more activities and more time is required. So there they use this technique, PERT and CPM. So they form it in the identify in this technique. What they do is first thing they identify what are the various techniques activities are required. So after identifying the various activities, they will see which activity has to be performed first, then which activity next, how many paths are there to reach the destination, starting point to end point. Is it clear? So for example, take the total network. For example, activity 1, activity 2. Suppose after performing activity 1, immediately you can perform 2 activities simultaneously, which can be done. It's not that 1, 2, 3, 4, the same sequence it has to go. It can be done. Sometimes it happens 2 work at a time you can do. So that can be identified and you can shortcut. Then suppose after the second activity, immediately you can do 5. Then you can go to activity 8. Suppose there are 8 activities. So from 3, 4, and from 4 to 5, or from 3 directly you can go to 6, from 6, 7, and then 8. Is it clear? So just an example I've given. How many activities to be performed? There are totally 8 activities to be performed to complete a particular project. Now, in what ways, how many parts that you can do? One, first activity, second activity, fifth activity you can complete, and you can go once more to the last activity, 8. Or else you can put 1, 3, 6, 7, 8. This is one part. Another part is 1, 3, 4, 5, 8. So for each of these activity, time is fixed from 1 to 2 to perform first activity to second activity. To perform this activity, activity 8 it is called. So what is the time taken for activity 8? For activity B, what is the time taken? For activity say C, what is the time taken? For D, what is the time taken? So total time required. For each part also we can analyze what is the time taken. Which one you call critical path here? CPM stands for critical path method. So which is critical path? The path which takes maximum time, more time to complete the task, accomplish the task. So such paths should be identified. Which is more critical, which is time consuming, more activities are required. So such paths should be identified by the managers, concentrate more on such path and ensure that without wasting time and effort, they will reach the achieving target. Is it clear? So this is what CPM. By doing this network, they'll get an idea. They can identify which is critical, where I should concentrate more, which activity is taking more time. This can be identified and concentrate, give more concentration, control over such activities. PERT stands for Performance Evaluation Review Technique. Performance Evaluation Review Technique. Here we find out for each activity what is the time, one time we fix. What is the time required for each activity? Whereas performance evaluation review technique, we identify 3 types of time: shortest time, optimistic, pessimistic, and the most probable time. So 3 types of times we identify and see which activity takes shortest time, which activity takes maximum time, which is most probable time, and so on. So using this technique, it helps the managers to identify the critical area, critical activity, where he has to emphasize more and exercise his control. Now coming to the last technique, management information system. It's a computerized information system wherein the computer provides the required information to the managers in an efficient way. What is relevant, only such information is provided. Within a very short period, they'll get the relevant information to take quick actions. Now, for example, take income tax. Suppose an individual has to assess his income and decide how much tax he has to pay. If he goes to the auditor, earlier, before this computer system was introduced, a software was introduced, they used to do it manually. The person used to give the information about his income, his expenses, his savings. So collecting all this information, an auditor used to assess his income and refer to the law, income tax law, and see the rules and regulations, apply the rules and regulations, and see how much tax he has to pay, apply the percentage, what is the slab system, under which slab system, and what is the liability, tax liability of a person. This was done manually. But today, in this computerized system, a software is developed in such a way that when you give the information about your income, your expenses, your savings, all the percentages, the calculation, applying the rates, deductions, additions, everything is done within a very short period and gives you the final answer quickly. What is the tax liability? So to that extent, this information is provided with speed and quick decision can be taken, and relevant aspects only provides, not unnecessary information that can be avoided here. So management information system, it is quite costly because the software has to be installed and so on. So not all organizations, small organizations can go for it. So these are the modern techniques, and depending upon the situation or various aspects that they have to control, an appropriate tools may be used, the techniques may be adopted by the organization. So I'll conclude. Today we discussed about the steps in organization. So first step is setting a standard. Standard set ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಳತೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎರಡನ್ನೂ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಇಷ್ಟು ಸೆಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೀಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸಗಳು ಏನು ಅಂತ ಕಂಡು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸಗಳು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡ ನಂತರ ಅದನ್ನ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಸರಿಯಾದ ಕಾರಣ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿಯಾದ ಕಾರಣ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೆಷರ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸರಿಯಾದ ಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನ ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಯಂತ್ರಿಸುವುದು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಸೇ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲಿಂಗ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. Now coming to the techniques, ಯಾವ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ನಾವು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್, ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಂಪ್ರದಾಯಿಕ ತಂತ್ರಗಳು. ಸಾಂಪ್ರದಾಯಿಕ ತಂತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ 4 ತರ ಇದೆ: ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್, ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್, ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇವನ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಬಜೆಟರಿ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ನಂತರ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಆನ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್. ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಆನ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಹೂಡಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ಬರುವಂತಹ ಆದಾಯ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಈ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಸರಿಯಾದ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಈ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಆದಾಯ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಸಪೋಸ್ ಅಂದಾಜು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. 25% ನನಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದಾಜು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನಗೆ 15% ಅಷ್ಟು ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾನು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೋದು. ನಾನು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋಷ್ಟು ನನಗೆ ಈ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ, ಈ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋಷ್ಟು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮುಂದೆ ನಾನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಯಾವ್ದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್. ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅನೇಕ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ರೇಷಿಯೋಸ್ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡಿಟಿ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್, ಅದರ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ, ಸಾಲ ತೀರಿಸುವ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಪ ಅವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಲ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀವೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದ, ನಾವು ಅವ್ರು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀವೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅಂತ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡಿಟಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಸಾಲ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋ. ಸಾಲ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಸಾಲಗಿಂತ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ಸಾಲ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಧೈರ್ಯ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟಬಿಲಿಟಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋಸ್ ಅಂತಲೂ ಇದೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಾಭ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅನಲೈಸ್ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು. ಟರ್ನ್ ಓವರ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋಸ್ ಅಂತಲೂ ಇದೆ. ದೆನ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಂಗ್. ಈ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಒಂದೊಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಣೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಲೆಕ್ಕಾಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ಅಥವಾ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಸೆಂಟರ್, ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್, ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಗೆ ವೆಚ್ಚ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಣೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆದಾಗ ಯಾವ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಾವು ಹೊಣೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂಗೆ, ಆ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ನೀವೇ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್, ಅಷ್ಟ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್, ಅವ್ರನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮತ್ತೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋ ರೀತಿ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೆಷರ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಒನ್ ವೇ ನಾವು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಈಚ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಾವು ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಾವು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅವರ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ವೆರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅವ್ರು ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋಂಥ ನಿರ್ಧಾರಗಳು, ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್, ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್, ರೂಲ್ಸ್, ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಏನೇನು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೋ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿದೆಯಾ, ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ, ಅದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋಂಥ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ತರಬೇಕಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇನ್ನು ಬೆಟರ್ ವೇ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಈ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ PERT and CPM ಅಂತ ಬಂದಾಗ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಟೈಮ್ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳು ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಈ PERT ಮತ್ತೆ CPM ಅನ್ನೋ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಪಾತ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ಎಂಡ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಎಂಡ್ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಬರೋಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು, ಮನೆ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಕಟ್ಟಡ ಕಟ್ತಾರೆ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯಾವ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ ಹಾಕುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಂತರ ಒಂದು ಫಿನಿಶಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಸೈಮಲ್ಟೇನಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ವುಡ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಷಿಯನ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಪ್ಲಂಬಿಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸೈಮಲ್ಟೇನಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೆಲವು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾವ್ದು ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕಲ್, ಯಾವ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಒಂದು ಅದನ್ನ ಮುಗಿಸೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾವ ಪಾತ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೋ, ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ ರೋಲ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಗಮನಿಸಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ್ದು ವೇಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇದು ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಒದಗಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಒದಗಿಸೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆಯೋ ಆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅದು ಒದಗಿಸಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರೈಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇಂದ. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಪ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಕ್ವಿಕ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ and we come to conclusion of this chapter. Thank you all. Wishing you all the best.